the silence between the promise and the breakthrough. There is a certain kind of ache that only waiting can bring. It's the space between what God said and what you see. It's that suspended tension where your heart holds on to a promise that hasn't materialized, where the silence of heaven feels louder than any noise on earth. I've stood in that space. I've wept in it. I've wrestled with questions I never thought I'd ask out loud. God, are you still here? Did I miss you? Was the promise just a figment of my hope? Waiting is not passive. It's an active, relentless battle of faith. It's waking up each day and deciding to believe when you don't feel it, to trust when nothing around you confirms it. It's praying when your words feel dry, lifting your hands in worship when your heart is heavy, and showing up when all you want to do is disappear. When God gives you a promise, He rarely gives you a timeline. That's the part that's hard. Because we live in a world of immediacy. We want results, we want movement, we want visible progress. And when none of that comes, the enemy whispers, "You were wrong. God isn't coming. This is never going to change." I remember the moment I felt like I was drowning in that silence. Everything in my life had stalled. Relationships, opportunities, dreams. It felt like every door was closed. I tried to force things, tried to make my own way, but the more I pushed, the more exhausted I became. Until one night, in total frustration, I cried out, "God, do something." And what I heard next wasn't loud. It wasn't what I expected, but it pierced through the noise of my anxiety. I already am. That was the beginning of a shift in my understanding. You see, just because nothing seems to be happening in the visible, doesn't mean nothing is happening in the invisible. God moves in layers we can't see. He prepares hearts, rearranges circumstances, grows us quietly in the soil of obscurity. Just like a seed breaks underground before it ever breaks the surface, so do we. Think of Abraham, holding on to a promise for decades without a single sign. Think of Hannah pouring her soul out year after year for a child. Think of Jesus, waiting 30 years to begin his ministry. What looks like delay to us is often development to God. But development hurts. Because it confronts us. It strips us of idols we didn't know we had. Our timelines, our logic, our control. It reveals what we really believe. Do I trust God or just His outcomes? Am I in love with the promise or the promise giver? That season of silence taught me that God is never inactive. He is strategic, He is precise, He sees further than I do. He's not stalling, He's synchronizing. And slowly I started to surrender, not just my desires, but my need to understand. I stopped asking, when will it happen, and started asking, who are you making me in this? Because if the wait is where He makes warriors, I didn't want to leave that place weaker. I wanted to leave it refined. God reminded me of Isaiah 55:8-9, where my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways. That verse isn't just poetic, it's protection. It means I don't have to figure it all out. I can rest, even when I don't understand. One morning, during another long stretch of feeling like I was going nowhere, I opened my journal and wrote, "I trust you, even here, even now, even when nothing makes sense." And something broke inside me, in the best way. It was the surrender I had been avoiding, the release I didn't know I needed. From that moment on, my prayers changed. They weren't just desperate pleas to escape the delay, they became invitations for God to do whatever He needed to do inside me, before He did anything for me. And the more I let go of my expectations, the more I saw God show up in unexpected ways. Little confirmations, random encouragements, quiet nudges that reminded me, I was never alone. The promise hadn't died. It was just taking root. So if you're there, stuck between the promise and the breakthrough, don't give up. Don't believe the lie that God has forgotten you. He's working. He's weaving. He's not just preparing the promise for you. He's preparing you for the promise. And when it comes, it will be right. Not rushed, not forced, but right. Because God turns delay into destiny. Always. What God builds in the waiting. If someone had told me years ago that the most transformative season of my life would be the one where I felt the most stuck, I would have laughed in disbelief. Because waiting doesn't feel like growth. It feels like stagnation. Like standing still while the world rushes past you. Like you're left behind, overlooked, forgotten. But that's the irony of divine timing. While you feel paralyzed, God is planting. At first, I resisted it. Every part of me wanted to push forward, to force a result, to manufacture momentum. I'd say things like, I just need to make something happen. Or, I can't just sit around and wait forever. Because waiting felt like weakness. It felt like I was wasting my time, my energy, my calling. But what I came to understand is that God doesn't waste waiting. He works in it, through it. Because of it, I remember reading about Moses. 40 years in the desert after 40 years in Egypt. That's 80 years of process before God lit a bush on fire and changed everything. David was anointed king, then went back to tending sheep, dodging spears, hiding in caves. Jesus himself waited 30 years before performing a single miracle. We read these stories and turn the pages quickly. But those were years, decades of quiet, of not yet, of why am I still here? The world celebrates fast. God blesses deep. In the silence, God was teaching me how to listen. In the stillness, He was revealing what I actually believed. In the slowness, He was redefining success, not as speed or visibility or results, but as obedience, trust, and consistency. One of the hardest things to do when you're in the waiting is to stop comparing, especially in an age where everyone's highlight reel is constantly playing in your face. I'd scroll and see people getting married, launching businesses, having babies, publishing books, planting churches, traveling the world, and I was still in the same room, with the same prayers, asking the same questions. God, why not me? Why not now? But the Spirit kept reminding me, their timing is not your timing. Their lane is not your lane. So I started doing something radical. I stopped asking when, and I started asking what. Not when will it happen, but what are you doing in me right now, God? What are you building? What are you healing? What are you preparing me for? And that shift changed everything. Because when you see your waiting as training, everything has purpose. The tears aren't wasted. The silence isn't empty. The hidden place becomes holy ground. God began to reveal things in me that needed to be uprooted before He could entrust me with the next season. Pride that had to die. Insecurities I masked with performance. Wounds I had buried under busyness. He stripped me of the things I leaned on so I would finally learn to lean on Him. I started journaling again, not to chronicle the pain, but to document the process. I wrote prayers even when I didn't feel them. I worshiped even when I didn't hear back. I served quietly, faithfully, without applause. And in that space, intimacy grew. There's a passage in Isaiah 40 that says, "They that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength." Not those who rush ahead, not those who give up, those who wait. And slowly I started to feel the shift. Not around me, but inside me. I wasn't anxious all the time. I wasn't bitter when others got blessed. I wasn't trying to prove my worth through achievement. I was becoming whole. becoming content, becoming aligned with the heart of God. And that was the breakthrough. Not the job, not the relationship, not the platform. The breakthrough was peace. It was perspective. It was knowing that even if God never gave me the thing I thought I needed, I had already received what mattered most, Him. Friend, if you're in the middle of the waiting, I want you to know, it matters. You matter. Your prayers are heard, your pain is seen, and your process is sacred. This isn't punishment, it's preparation. God isn't late. He's precise. He's weaving things together that you can't see yet. And when the time is right, the door will open. But until then, let Him build the foundation. Let Him fortify your faith. Let Him anchor your identity so deeply in Him that when the blessing comes, it won't shake you. It will elevate you. You don't have to understand the delay to trust the destiny. Stay the course. Stay faithful. Stay rooted. God is working while you wait. When everyone else moves ahead and you're still waiting. There's a unique kind of ache that comes not just from waiting, but from waiting while others seem to move forward. When you look around and everyone's story seems to be unfolding, marriage is blooming, babies born, businesses thriving, dreams coming true, and you're still stuck in the hallway, still staring at closed doors. You try to celebrate with them. You smile, you clap, you post the little hand clap emoji and the heart, but behind it you're wondering, God, what about me? I've wrestled with this kind of quiet heartbreak. It's not always loud or dramatic. It's subtle. It creeps in through comparison and unanswered prayers, and you begin to feel invisible, not just to the world, but sometimes even to God. But God sees. And not only that, He understands. Because even Jesus in the garden before the cross prayed a prayer that didn't get answered the way He asked. Father, if there's any other way, let this cup pass. And yet, the delay wasn't a denial. It was a pathway to destiny. The same is true for us. But it doesn't mean it's easy. I remember attending a friend's wedding while secretly grieving the end of a relationship I thought was the one. I remember watching others celebrate milestones while I was scraping to hold on to hope. And in those moments, I had to make a choice. Let bitterness take root, or let God turn that pain into deeper trust. So I started talking to Him like a friend again. Not with perfect prayers or polished words, but raw honesty. God, I'm tired of pretending. This hurts. I feel left behind. But I want to trust You more than I want to control this. And slowly, He began to meet me in the honesty. He didn't rush me. He didn't shame me. He reminded me that His love isn't based on how I feel. It's based on who He is. And He is faithful. One morning I was journaling and felt the Holy Spirit whisper, "You're not late. You're on my time." That line became an anchor, because when you believe that, really believe it, the pressure lifts. You stop seeing your life as a series of missed deadlines and start seeing it as a masterpiece still in progress. Sometimes God will allow everyone else to move ahead. Not because you're forgotten, but because He's setting you apart. He's doing something deeper in you, something that requires more time, more refining, more intimacy with Him. And when the moment comes, it won't just be a promotion, it'll be a purpose fulfilled. Joseph's brothers went on with their lives. David's brothers went to war. Jesus' disciples got to minister before Him. But when the fullness of time came, their seasons shifted, and so will yours. What God has for you is for you, and no amount of delay, detour, or disappointment can cancel what He has declared over your life. So if today feels like a rerun of yesterday, if you're still in the same place while everyone else is posting highlights, breathe. You are not forgotten. You are not behind. You are being built, and when it's your turn, it'll be beautiful. Trusting the God who delays for a reason. Sometimes the hardest part about waiting isn't the delay itself, it's not knowing why. We are wired to search for meaning, to put pieces together, to form a narrative that makes the waiting worthwhile. But when God remains silent and explanations are absent, it challenges every part of our humanity. We ask, why did this have to happen? What are you trying to teach me? Is there something wrong with me? I've asked all of those, and then some. When you've prayed every prayer you know, fasted, served, obeyed, and things still don't move, it can shake your faith to the core. But maybe that's part of the plan. Not to destroy your faith, but to deepen it. Because faith that only works when things go your way isn't really faith, it's convenience. Faith that survives delay, silence, heartbreak, and detours, that's faith forged in fire. That's the kind of faith that moves mountains because it's been unmoved by storms. There was a season where I truly felt like God had placed me in a holding pattern. Not a punishment, not a setback, just a divine pause. And for the longest time, I hated it. I saw others with opportunities I wanted. I watched doors fly open for people while mine seemed glued shut, and the questions grew louder than the peace in my heart, until I read John 11. The story of Lazarus. Jesus hears Lazarus is sick, but instead of rushing to his side, he stays 2 more days. He delays, not because he doesn't love Lazarus, but because the delay was part of the greater miracle. This sickness will not end in death, Jesus says. And it didn't. But it sure looked like death in the middle. It smelled like death. It felt final. What if that's where you are right now? In the part of your story that looks like the end, but is actually a setup for resurrection? God's delays aren't random. They're strategic. And while we may never fully understand them on this side of eternity, we can trust the heart behind them. There were moments in my delay when I couldn't pray fancy prayers. All I could whisper was, God, help. And he did. Sometimes not by changing the situation, but by changing me, by giving me strength to keep going, by reminding me that his ways are higher, that his thoughts are not my thoughts. There's a kind of intimacy with God you only find in the waiting. It's raw, it's real, and it's beautiful. During this season, I found comfort in Lamentations 3. After an entire book of sorrow and grief, Jeremiah writes, "Yet I call this to mind, and therefore I have hope. Because of the Lord's great love, we are not consumed. His mercies are new every morning." Even in pain, even in delay, hope rises. I started to see signs of his presence, a verse that jumped off the page, a psalm that felt written just for me, a stranger's kind word. Little reminders that God was still here, still working, still writing. Delay doesn't mean denial, it means development. And development takes time. A tree with shallow roots can't survive a storm. And God loves you too much to give you a platform your character can't sustain. So if you're in a delay, don't panic. Don't rush. Don't try to escape it. Ask God what he's forming in you. Ask him to reveal what's being healed. And trust, really trust, that he's not holding out on you. He's holding you. Your delay has a purpose. And it's not punishment. It's preparation. Let him write your story in his timing, because what he's preparing you for is greater than what you're reaching for. Destiny revealed when the delay breaks and God's plan unfolds. There is a moment in every waiting season where, if you stay long enough, something begins to shift, not just around you, but within you. And then one day, it happens. A breakthrough. A door opens. A phone rings. An opportunity presents itself. But it doesn't just come as a surprise. It comes with the weight of everything you've walked through to get there. When God finally moves in a way that we can see, it's not as if he just started working. No, it's that the invisible has become visible. The seed that was growing in the dark now breaks the soil. The story that was being written in silence now reads aloud. The promise that seemed distant now arrives clothed in clarity. I remember the day God answered one of the deepest prayers of my life, a door I had waited years to open. And when it finally happened, I wasn't jumping up and down or shouting from the rooftops. I was weeping. Not just because of the joy, but because I understood something deeper. The delay wasn't wasted. Every tear, every journal entry, every moment of doubt, and every quiet act of obedience had been woven together into this. Destiny doesn't arrive with fireworks. It arrives in fulfillment. Quiet sometimes, peaceful, complete. And when it comes, you start to see why the delay was necessary. The lessons you carry now, the humility you didn't have before, the strength in your spine, the softness in your heart, the wisdom in your spirit, none of those came from the easy moments. They were forged in the fire. Sometimes I think the greatest miracle isn't that God gives us what we asked for, it's that he transforms who we are along the way, so that when we receive it, we are ready to steward it, to protect it, to honor him with it. And that's the point, isn't it? Not just that we get the dream, but that we become the kind of person who can live it out with integrity, with compassion, with depth. There's this moment in Genesis when Joseph, after everything, betrayal, prison, forgotten years, stands before his brothers, the same ones who sold him into slavery. And he says something that always gives me chills. What you meant for evil, God meant for good. That's the beauty of delay. That's what destiny looks like. God turns the things that tried to break us into the very soil where he grows our calling. So maybe you've come to the end of a long waiting season, or maybe you're just beginning. Either way, hear me. The God who delayed you is the God who will deliver you. He is not a tease. He is not cruel. He is intentional, loving, and precise. He finishes what he starts. You can trust him with your timeline, with your heart, with your story. And when it finally unfolds, you won't just thank him for the miracle, you'll thank him for the delay, because it's in the waiting that he makes us ready. Let your life preach this truth. God turns delay into destiny. If this message spoke to you, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with someone who's in a waiting season right now. Leave a comment below about what you're trusting God for. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories like this, because you're not alone on this journey. Thank you for watching. Remember, the delay is not the end, it's just the setup for what's next.